I'm Carol O'Shea, the host of tonight's Membership Voice webinar. Tonight, of course, we're talking about COVID-19 and some things that you can do to help your club connect with the community and the like. And there's been a lot of demand from clubs for ideas, strategy, if you like, to use in these challenging times. As a digital media consultant in the non-profit community volunteer section, Evan has really built his skills over the years by educating people, businesses and community groups focus on practical use of social media. He's an accomplished public speaker. I think many of us have had the pleasure of hearing from Evan, a great trainer who gives all for Rotary. And the great thing about Evan is that he does give 150%, just keeps going. And as he puts it, we're all superheroes. So it's now my very great pleasure to introduce one of my favourite public image superheroes, Evan Burrell. Over to you, Evan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was just going to say, Kiro, we're all like the Energizer button. We just keep going and going and going. Keeping with the I can wear I've got my Clark Kent glasses. I've got my superhero cape. But I will stick with it. So, well, thank you very much, Kiro, for the invitation, and thank you all for joining us tonight. I've been doing a number of these Zoom meetings in the last few weeks, and I've got quite a few going forward. So it's quite funny. We've all been thrust, whether we like it or not, into this new age of doing things. COVID-19 has really played havoc with our way of life, and it's funny that what I found in Rotary over the years that I've been doing it, which I've been involved now for 21 years, is that Rotarians inherently aren't big fans of change. And we talk about change fairly often in Rotary, and it sends, people sort of tune out. But with this COVID-19 and how majority of us aren't even able to meet, the venues that we meet at are closed, change has been thrust upon us, and we've got, we can either embrace it or we can run away from it. And when the dust settles on all this, not to start a dampener on the presentation, but I think there will be some clubs or some Rotarians that will not come back from this, which is going to be a huge shame. So it's important for us to keep the engagement level up and offer things like Zoom and other ways of having meetings to keep our members engaged and motivated and, keep the information flowing about what our clubs are doing. And so certainly what I've been doing in the last little while is putting out messages on my Rotarian Facebook page about, simple things, washing your hands, and you may have seen a graphic that I did, how we all need to sort of wash our hands for about 20 seconds, and you sort of match that with a song or something like that. And I made up a graphic there with this Rotary song. God, it's such a bad song, I've even expunged it from my memory banks. Actually, I can't remember it. But anyway, whatever the Rotary song is, when you wash your hands for 20 seconds, and also did the same for the four-way test as well. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? And all that kind of thing. And it's sort of, for us as Rotarians, trying to keep it a little bit lighthearted, and that's what we need to do. And a lot of the messages that I've been putting out there in regards to this is, keeping clubs active, putting about Zoom meetings, putting about staying connected, putting about messages that we receive from the government or other sorts of important messages. And that's what you as Rotarians and your clubs can do, is put out messages that are relevant to your audience about this, making sure that you tell people that your clubs are still meeting. And in actual fact, you might find that you may get more engagement from those in the community to actually join your meetings now that you're online, because in some respects there can be a little bit of that apprehension about someone coming along to your club in a normal setting, but the fact that they can do it from the comfort of their own home is a little bit more. So, just cut out there with the audio. So for me, public image is, I think, one of the main or the most important thing we do in Rotary. There will people who will argue with me that saying that what we do for the foundation, what we do as clubs and the projects that we work on, and they are all inherently important. But for me, public image, I think, is the most important, because if we didn't promote ourselves or who we are as an organisation or tell people what our ethos is, then we're not going to get people who want to join and be involved in us or with what we do. And I have been banging on like a drum about public image for years. And things that resonated with me, as you can see, I'm a Batman fan. Sorry, that was a terrible term. Superman fan. So that's the superhero imagery has resonated with me as a kid. I always wanted to be Superman, and I always wanted to save the world and all that kind of stuff. And when I joined Rotaract and moved into Rotary, for me, the superhero sort of concept sort of encapsulated what we do as Rotarians. So, okay, sure, we might not be superheroes going along to our club meetings and eating boring chicken, but what we do in ending polio, and we do projects overseas, and we help change people's lives, and we do all these major things. And for me, that's kind of superhero-esque. And so we kind of riffed on that idea, and I went off with that. And people feel good about themselves knowing that, what they do makes a difference in people's lives. And it's even more important when it comes to things like the coronavirus, where Rotary clubs can be the superheroes of the community through this. So one of the ideas, what I'd like you to sort of take away from this is, while we're all just sitting around on Zoom and trying to conduct our regular normal meetings, is have a think about what we as clubs can do for those in the community who are affected by all this, and even ourselves. Some clubs are sitting on oodles of cash, just waiting for that rainy day, and it's absolutely bucketing down now. So I encourage you to think about it, or go back to your club boards or your district or something, and see whether organisations like Salvation Army or the Meals on Wheels or other people could do a little bit of cash injections to help those in need. Particularly the older generation some aren't able to leave their homes because of self-isolation, or, as we know, there's hardly anything on the shelf anymore at the supermarkets. And some people are doing it tough. I just lost my job a little while ago, or last week, from I used to work for Rotary Down Under. I did all their social media and did a sort of budgeting and all sorts of different things. Unfortunately, that avenue's dried up for me. So there are certainly plenty of others in a worse position than I am, and they don't have any money. They don't have any ways of being able to sort of keep the wheels turning. Yes, of course, there's government stimulus and all the rest of that's coming through. But what I think as clubs can do is reach out to those in your community and see what the need is. There are a lot of Facebook groups that have been set up for areas where you live. If you haven't joined them already, I suggest you do. So, for example, I live out here in Sydney, in Riverstone, and there's a sort of a 3 or 4 suburbs have got together, and they've got a Facebook group, and there's a couple of thousand people in that group. And so I've been posting in that group saying that the Rotary Club of the Ponds, my club, is still active, and we're still helping out in the community. Is there anything that you need from us? Let us know. And so we had a couple of messages from people and who are sort of interested about what we're doing and want to go from there. The main takeaway from that is that the Rotary clubs, or these community or Facebook pages, the community still know that Rotary is around, Rotary is existing. And if you promote your Zoom meetings perhaps through those Facebook groups as well, you never know what kind of hits you might get from people. And also to different speakers who may now be coming on board, open up a bit more of a wider range to an audience which you may not have ever had in your own traditional meeting. And so you put that out there and spread that out on your social media channels, or if you do your regular emails and those sorts of things. Encourage perhaps a lot of kids are now learning from stuck at home, learning online. Some of these speakers might actually be worthwhile to have them involved. But the main push that I'm trying to say is keep the public image going, keep Rotary relevant, because some clubs, as I said, may not survive at the end of this. and hopefully other clubs may flourish. You know, we've embraced this Zoom technology. A lot of clubs are now going forward on this. So we've got to sort of keep pushing that out. So I keep putting out graphics and different things like that, and I have been for years. And in some respects, I don't know, I don't think I've been matched by anybody else in the world with the amount of content and things that I've been putting out there. And I do things that for clubs and for Rotarians benefits to help populate their own Facebook pages and things. And I'm quite happy for you to take and steal and copy and do whatever you want to do with the stuff that I put out, and just sort of get the message out there, because it's vitally important that people know that we exist and that we're continuing on, and we're doing these great things in the world, that what we do. So COVID-19 has really hit us all for six. Home. A lot of us are all getting onto those jobs that we have always put on the back burner. And so now is no better time than now to sort of take heed and take stock of what your club actually does. Perhaps it's a nice time for you to review some of your long-term projects to see whether or not they're worth bringing back when all this is over. It's a good idea to sort of start looking at your websites and different other things and sort of tidy a few things up, or perhaps you might have a little Zoom meeting with a few people from your club and have a little social media committee or a website committee, and sort of start taking some time to give your website a spruce up. So making sure that you use making sure that you've got the proper Rotary logo, different things, update the club's details, because people might want to get in contact with you more so than ever now, and go through your Facebook pages. And one thing that I spoke at my club about on the meeting on Sunday was, you may have heard about the Great Australian Bear Hunt, which is people are putting teddy bears and other sorts of soft toy, plush toys in their windows as a bit of a morale boost for the kids. And so kids are sort of walking around the street with their parents, or getting out for exercising. They see the little teddy bears, and so I got my club members to sort of take photographs of their own front houses or windows with the teddies, and I'm going to put that all as a collage, and I'll put that up on our Facebook page, to sort of say the Rotary Club of the Ponds is taking part in the Great Australian Bear Hunt. I'd love to see those out in the community take part, and it's just a sort of fun way to sort of a bit of a current internet trend for us to sort of jump on the back of, and it's a good little fun thing to do. Some other ideas is perhaps if you're that way inclined, or your club president could film a video about them washing their hands or something as a reminder to members. There's a multitude of ideas that we could sort of have going forward, and I think this is where the sort of brainstorming from meetings like this happens, is where people can think about these things and put them into practice, because if we just sit on our hands, we're going to run out of ideas fairly quickly with this. So that's kind of my little preamble for our sort of initial discussion. Covered a few little topics there. And I'd like to hear, Caro, if you have some questions or some other questions, anything specific that I can answer for you in regards to what we're doing in regards to COVID-19, or anything in particular. I'm very happy to answer some questions, and we have a bit of a Q&A type of dialogue.
Fantastic. Thank you, Evan. The chat has been very lively. I did get a few questions in advance, as you're aware. We discussed that, so we might start with those. And
sure. As
I just reminded everyone, pop your questions in the chat, please. It's tidier that way. We don't sort of we have less of a preamble, and we'll be able to get through more questions. Okay, question. First question. It's a care and concern, I think, for you as a person, Evan, which is wonderful. Are you staying safe and following social distance measures, and maybe working from home as much as possible?
I'm a hugger. I love giving people hugs. I'm a touchy-feely guy. So it's hard, okay? But also in my job, some of you may not know that I'm getting some messages about hugging some others. I always have to give people hugs. That I don't actually work for Rotary. I did for Rotary Down Under, just doing a little bit of their thing. But people think that this is a full-time job. What I actually do is I'm a bus driver, believe it or not. I'm also an actor as well, and I have a few other different things. And you need to live in Sydney, you need to have about 30 jobs. But my main job is a bus driver. So as you can sort of, it can be a little bit it makes me a little bit anxious, to be honest, because we're still deemed as an essential service, and thankfully I still have my job. And I work nights as well, so you never really know who's going to get on your bus at the best of times. But particularly through this, it's always just a little bit of, anxious. It makes me a little bit anxious. So, but the wheels keep turning on the bus, and I'm doing my best. I've got a little mask and wear gloves and sort of take care of a lot of hygiene and that sort of stuff. So in answer to the question, yes, I'm doing well. My family is doing well. I've chosen not to see my parents for a little while. My dad's 80 and they're sort of susceptible. So it's a bit tough in that respect. And but other than that, I'm sort of doing okay. And I can't really work from home driving a bus, but I'm keeping myself positive, trying to make others positive for things that I'm doing on social media. So.
Okay. Next question, Evan. Thank you for that. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused the cancellation of pretty much all of our all of our face-to-face program, and this is obviously having a jarring effect on a lot of organisations. Many are coping with it okay. But do you have any sort of special recommendations, I suppose, in this part, in terms of how we can translate those sort of on the ground, hands-on, face-to-face things into the online space?
Well, that is a tough question. That really is. Yes, it's going to be hard for us because a lot of clubs rely on some of the old tried and true ways of generating funds, the Bunnings barbecue sausages, the book fairs, the market stalls, all sorts of these different things, and we're just not really in a position to be able to do them anymore. So how we translate that online, well, now is the time where the old saying goes, well, we tried that once and it didn't work, so we're never going to do it again. Well, we're now in a position that really we can try absolutely anything and see what sticks. So things like the GoFundMe, or you saw with the recent bushfire crisis where the Australian comedian, something Barbara, I just forgot her name. Anyway, she raised $50 million. So she definitely tapped into some good public response and got some good online through that. Anything specific? Look, Kero, I don't. That is a really, really hard question, and it's something that I'm pondering, and I know plenty of other clubs are in the same situation. All I can sort of suggest is that we have to think of ways of reviewing our past events and seeing what is able to be translated into an online setting, and also whether some of these projects can come back or take the opportunity, as we are now, is coming up with some fresh and new ideas to relaunch or launch something brand new. But look, that is a tough question, and I just don't have any specific answer for that. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough.
Thank you, Evan. This next one, I think, sort of touches the heart a bit. Clubs are wanting to check in on friends, members, and vulnerable people. And I mean, we all know older folk, friends, family, and the like. And of course, there are a lot of people in the community with compromise who are younger but have compromised immune and health and respiration and the like. Clubs are wanting to check in on friends and the like while staying safe and compliant with the law. Innovative ideas there.
Well, I think we could have I think Zoom and video conferencing is certainly going to be their way forward. and we could have online dinner parties. Most of us have eaten so much chicken in our lives, perhaps we could even do a Zoom meeting specifically related to what chicken recipes we could give each other. We could use Facebook Live for different things. We really can try all sorts of different stuff. Having birthdays and things like that online. But even just also, besides just online stuff, it's just a simple act of actually calling somebody up and having a phone conversation with people, which is good too. Perhaps sending your friends or family emails, seeing if anybody needs anything. As we all know, everybody's running very short on toilet paper. So if you're one of those people that's got about 30,000 rolls in your garage, maybe you can let some of those toilet rolls go and see if some members in your club or your friends and family are doing it tough and need some of those things. It's also too, it's having an opportunity for us with some of these video conferences to have a safe space for people to feel, that we're still thought of and that, people are still thinking about us. The sort of the care of others is intrinsic to who we are as Rotarians. And I spoke about it at my little Zoom meeting I had last week at South Bank. Was sort of the welfare officer of the club is making sure and checking that everybody is doing okay and what's happening and what's going on. Do we need anything and all that sort of stuff. And the other thing is too, Kero, is that we can also engage some of our Rotaractors or interactors and younger members of the Rotary family to perhaps even put on some Zoom training if they think we need it, or have some sort of dialogues. The other thing too, Kero, this is more specifically for members rather than families and friends, is that seeing how a vast majority of clubs are now meeting on Zoom, think about reaching out to some clubs in another country and seeing whether you can sort of tee up the two clubs to have a combined Zoom meeting together. I think that would work really well. And also, like as what we're doing tonight, we've opened up your Zoom meeting up and we've got some people from overseas and other places around Australia as well joining. But more specifically, a lot of us are all connected on social media, and particularly some of those past governors or incoming governors have made friends and connections with people from other countries, and maybe reach out to them and have some combined Rotary meetings. But there's an amazing amount of sort of new ideas and new ways of going forward. I think we just have to lift our level of engagement up and get connected with people. And one last thing, and to answer that question, is my mum, for example, she does a book club every week. So she's got all the girls on book club on Zoom, and they're all sort of learning it. And so they show the.
Everyone else is exactly there, but
a random book. Here we go, Batman book. So, they're showing what books they're reading today, and they're talking a little bit about that. And they're connecting with I've got a golden ticket. They're connecting with Zoom. So, it doesn't have to just be what we do on Rotary. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could join different Zoom meetings or different online things every single day if you're really racking your brain and you're bored. But the main point is it's just making more of an extra effort to reach out to people and engage with them and seeing what's actually going on, and if they need anything, if they need help, if they just need somebody to talk to, do they need help calling to get some further assistance through people, or all sorts of different things.
Thanks, Evan. I think we have plenty more questions here because a number of these, a number of the comments that have come through sort of lend themselves to that. One from David, and David refers to COVID terminology, which is about flattening the curve, reducing risk and the like. One of our risks here, as you touched on earlier on, is about engaging members, retaining members, and avoiding a massive member bleed in June. More than two people in one place is illegal, so the face-to-face option is effectively off the table. What sort of innovative things could we do, perhaps, to bring the at-risk membership group into the tent so that they feel that they're getting value and they're being cared for in Rotary?
Oh, that is a really hard question because, as you and I both know, engaging and retaining and keeping those members active at the best of times is particularly difficult, and so that's now made even harder nowadays. As it sort of refers back to the previous question, there is is sort of keeping those options available for those members to stay engaged in some way, shape or form. Now, as we know, you can't have two people, there's sort of a ban of more than two people congregating, or I was going to sort of suggest perhaps one of the members could visit another member at their home and sort of help them with Zoom. But again, I don't know, soon the way it's all going is it's going to be illegal to pick our nose or something. So I really don't know about that. Again, these are some really tough questions, and we have to take stock on, some of these members, Caro, are looking for an excuse just really to leave Rotary. Perhaps they've done 30 or 40 years and now's the perfect opportunity to let them go. And in some respects, if that's the way it goes, then there's not much we can do about it. But the ones that are wanting to stay engaged, the ones that are active on Zoom, the ones that are sort of embracing this new way of doing things, we just have to give them more options about, what's going to be in value for them. And yes, of course, when it comes around at the time in June where the club treasurer is going to be asking everybody to pay dues, there's going to be some tough talk about that, and perhaps your club or the districts or even Rotary International perhaps can think about ways of figuring out that particular tough topic. But engagement is the huge stumbling block. We need to keep our members going. We need to keep them engaged. We need to keep them informed, which is what I think social media and certainly those sorts of things is the best way going forward with that. And we need to be a little bit smarter in how we sort of do these things. And I think all the cards are on the table now. There should be no more sort of, the protocols of, a lot of clubs do toasting the Queen and singing anthems and other different rituals, which some clubs do. We can't necessarily do that nowadays. So I think this is a total new way of actually, when the clubs that stuff come back, is taking stock about how things are actually done. And I know more of an engagement thing, which some club members aren't the biggest fan of, is, a lot of people drive to different meetings or they attend district things or this sort of stuff, is that I think we'll find more and more often is that Zoom is going to be used to replace some of these meetings which have sort of been a little bit unnecessary or could have been done real quick online rather than having to come face to face. And I think, life is never going to go back to the way it was. It's always going to be interesting now watching what actually comes from all this. And I know you just talked upon it before about sort of conferences and conventions. And, for me, 2020 hasn't been the great start because I was supposed to go to America next month. I was going to be in Canada and speaking at a conference and then flying to Seattle and then Ohio, a conference there, and then back up into Toronto. And then in June was going to be the Hawaiian convention. And I've got, I even had my Hawaiian Rotary shirt. And that's all now gone. And that's left for a Rotary tragic like me, that's left a huge big hole because I love all that kind of stuff. And, we need to sort of acknowledge that some of the people who've been putting on these events have spent so much of their time for it suddenly to be taken away, and it's left a financial hole in a lot of our clubs and districts, and certainly Rotary International it has. And, not just to dwell so much on the sadness of it, but we need to embrace this sort of again, this new way of doing things, of going forward with it all. And very sort of sorry to really answer a very long answer to such a short question, but we all need to put our heads together in ways of how we can engage others, and perhaps also to some of the Rotary fellowships might actually be able to jump in and fill that sort of little niche. I know, for example, the beer fellowship or the whiskey fellowship or the wine fellowship, or even the fellowship that I'm involved in, the pin fellowship. These are sorts of opportunities which, you could set up Zoom meetings to try different whiskies for people, or, I don't know how that would work all around the world. I don't know, you'd have to be pretty keen to be drinking whiskey at 6 o'clock in the morning if you're in Australia or whatever time, but maybe any time's a good time for whiskey. But, it's just coming up with these sorts of ways and reaching out to some fellowships or reaching out of ways to see if some other speakers that would be willing to do online Zoom meetings as well. But it's presenting that information out there. It's getting that information out on social media, emails, newsletters, whatever way you normally communicate with people. And it's about being organised and sticking to the structure of having these regular meetings, and then encouraging those people to get involved with it. So.
Thank you, Evan. I'm going to jump to a question from Michelle here, because I think that there are opportunities, or there are big opportunities in terms of, if you like, crossing our traditional communications methods with our new ones. Michelle writes, I also write the newsletter and have asked members to submit photos, videos of what they're up to, share their hobbies, etc., and add to the newsletter each week. My question, based on Michelle's statement, is how do you see us being able to use traditional things like bulletins and newsletters to engage people in Zoom and other online meetings and the like?
I read Michelle's newsletter, so it is a pretty good one. The thing is, too, though, is that you got to sometimes wonder about how many of their newsletters and things like that actually get read. I've always thought about that with RDU. The magazine hits everybody's mailbox, and how much of it actually stays in the plastic or ends up in the recycling bin. So sometimes all that work and effort, you don't know what the sort of the take-up of that is. I still think it's incredibly important to put that stuff out there. And the biggest challenge that I certainly have as a content creator, if that's what I want to call myself, or certainly others in the same situation, is trying to find content that's interesting, that people want to engage with. You're some who follow me on social media, you'll see, sometimes I talk about serious stuff, sometimes I talk about stuff that's happening with me, sometimes I'll just post funny memes and other things which people can relate to. It's sort of, I do these things for my own self rather than for the benefit of others, because I sort of enjoy it. So as far as newsletters and emails and those sorts of things concerned, you've got to wonder, or really know, how many people are actually engaging with that. What I do think, though, is I would asking, you all to perhaps focus a bit more on your social media delivery, what sort of things you're putting out on that. Because for example, if you run a Facebook page, you can see what the analytics are. You can see how many people are actually getting engaged, or who's clicking on it, or who's doing these sorts of doing what there and everything else with the content you put out. But this COVID-19 is no reason for us to stop what we've been doing. Okay, we can't meet at the local bowling club and eat chicken, but we're now meeting online, but we've still got to do things. We've still got to put out newsletters. We've still got to put out stuff that goes out on social media. But this has given us now a bit more of an opportunity to sort of share a bit more of the content that's out there, because a lot more is. And I think there'll be a lot more Rotarians who would probably normally just go to their own club, and that's about as much Rotary involvement as they get. But now with so many different options of Zoom meetings around the world, people are actually taking and getting involved in that and wanting to see more. So things like that. I know Mel Pilkington out there in Western Australia has put something on my graphics group yesterday, a bit of a hub for all clubs that are having their Zoom meetings. So that, and encouraging any Rotarians to join from any part of the world to join those meetings. And I think that's a great initiative from her to do. And her graphic using Canva was awesome. So perhaps for your newsletter, maybe think about getting some details for an upcoming Zoom meeting from another club, from another area. put that on your newsletter or put that on your Facebook page or something else like that, and encourage those members to join those meetings or to participate and keep that sort of engagement flowing.
Thanks, Evan. There's another aspect to this that I think it's perhaps obvious, but we might be overlooking it a bit. And it's an observation that Narelle made that you might like to comment on. There are a lot of school children that now will have to have lessons online, but do not have the technology at home. Is this perhaps an area of need that Rotary clubs could assist with?
Oh, yeah, most certainly. I think. As I said earlier in the presentation, there are some clubs sitting on oodles and oodles and oodles of cash, just waiting for that rainy day. And, today it's absolutely raining, it's bucketing down. So, again, it's using your contacts through your club within the local community. So there could be some people or some kids who are doing it tough who don't have the latest iPhones and iPads and other different school equipment to do things online, or even in some respects a good internet connection. And Rotary clubs, are certainly at the forefront of being able to offer some assistance to do that. Maybe your club has a club member who's technically savvy or involved in sort of computer stores or other different bits and pieces. Perhaps your club could have a quick little grant program set up to allocate on a needs basis some short-term money to purchase some of these equipment. Perhaps your clubs could go to places like Harvey Norman's or other places and purchase through gift vouchers or through other sorts of means of $100 gift vouchers or $500 gift vouchers, and perhaps reach out to before they all close the schools and the principals and see whether or not any of the kids or the families could do with some of these vouchers or something to purchase technology equipment to keep their kids online and learning. What we need to avoid though is having the kids just hanging around on Fortnite and all this other kind of stuff, thinking it's an extended holiday, because that the way this is going, it might keep going into June, July, and forward. So I think we could reach out to the schools or some of the people P&C perhaps, and see what sort of technology or what's other ways our clubs could help, particularly those less fortunate than we are.
Thanks, Evan. Going to jump to a question from Tristan from Rotary of Elizabeth Quay, one of the innovative clubs in Perth. And Tristan would like to know your view on what might be the best official way of sharing best practices of doing innovative Rotary service activities so we can all learn from each other.
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of officialness, because I do a lot of things unofficially. I'm not exactly maybe you and I can answer that question ourselves, like together, Caro. You mean like I know Rotary Australia is a bit of an entity, or is the question you're asking in regards to things like Rotary International, or maybe can you tease the question out a bit for me there?
Well, I think this is what Tristan's looking for here is a channel, a little bit like Mel Pilkington's innovation with the setting up a list of all these new online meetings. I think Tristan is looking for a bit of inspiration in terms of maybe even creating a new channel, because we have lots of information flowing around in Rotary, and some of the Rotary International stuff always picks up some of the good things that are happening. I suppose what Tristan is looking at is what's the optimal way of sort of having a space where we can grab these best practices. I mean, I could nominate Membership Voice as one of the options there, but we don't want to limit these things.
Well, Tristan, to answer that, so let's remove the official part from it. Let's just take the official part out. I think the time is right, but maybe that's something I might do after this meeting. But I think setting up, I know, another Facebook group. Gosh, I'm in about 100, but we could set up a Facebook group specifically for And it would have to be Rotary Club members, because you can't use Rotary International anymore. But it would be like Rotary Club members, video conferencing best practice group or Zoom group or something along those lines. And maybe sharing, I know I saw from you, Caro, from our friends at the Lions, how to conduct Zoom meetings. And I think my friend Les Walsh sent me something along those lines as well. But maybe a sort of a dedicated Rotary Facebook group for this would be good. Maybe with some tutorials about how to conduct Zoom or Skype or go-to meetings or anything like that. The etiquette and best practices for, if you want to talk. I know how you're running it with the chat box, but other people put their hand up to talk and all this other kind of thing. I don't think Rotary International will do anything specifically official, and I'm not, I get away with quite a lot of stuff, officially or non-officially. So sometimes I think we need to sort of take it over ourselves, because I think if we wait for others to get around to it, by the time they do, the crisis might be over. So, maybe this is if you're so way inclined, Tristan, perhaps even set something up for yourself and encourage others to participate in that, and then, happy to be involved or share it, or I can work with you directly to do these sorts of things. But, there's certainly an area that's ripe for picking for us to sort of fill into that little niche, and it's just a way of sort of getting around to it.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan. It sounds like there's an opportunity in all this to set up a group alongside the membership voice page. So maybe that'd be another opportunity too, because we do need to catch these things, because there's a lot of good stuff happening out there. The next one is actually coming from Les up on the Sunshine Coast. And this is possibly a bit of reiteration, but I reckon it's something that we're all concerned about, because there's bloodletting. If we don't get this right, there's going to be some bloodletting. How do you, and I'll cut out the lead in here, how do you encourage members to participate in club Zoom meetings?
Well, really, there's no other options. They can't go down to the pub anymore and meet, or the bowling club, or wherever else you guys sort of meet. So we're sort of at a precipice. They either stay engaged if they're so way inclined and attempt to join us on Zoom and attempt to kind of have a kind of a normal meeting, or they sit it out. And I know there's some clubs out there that are just taking a hiatus for a while. And I think you'll find that once people start getting used to not actually having to attend each week or each whatever it is, I think you'll find it's going to be a lot harder to engage those members back into the organisation once they've sort of, haven't sort of participated. I think it sort of goes down to a value proposition. How the members actually value Rotary, value their own membership, and value their own club for them to stay active and engaged, because, people, and certainly members of your own club, are offering this new way of being able to stay connected by offering a video Zoom meeting or whatever way you want to do it. And it's up to those members who feel passionate about it that they should join on board. To sort of thing pop up from Les, there should be no reason why some of your meetings can't have 100% attendance, and I think that's really true. There shouldn't be any real reason why your members can't join some of the Zoom meetings. I mean, Dancing with the Stars has just finished, and you might still have Married with First Sight, and you can always go back and rewatch an episode on Netflix. So. It's all boils down to the individual members' own reasons for why they're in Rotary, what they're wanting to get out of Rotary, and how much they actually want to stay engaged and be passionate. But that should, just because some members might not join or might not be engaged, it doesn't mean that you have to give in and throw your hands up in there and say, oh gosh, it's just not worth it anymore. I mean, just look at me with the amount of stuff that I put out there on social media. there's many a times where I've been frustrated and thrown my hands up, and you get praise from one end and criticism from the other end, and you just sort of just keep rolling with it, just roll the punches and keep moving it on. Whether something works or not, I just keep going forward, and that's what you have to do is with your clubs is send out the emails, send out the personal calls, encourage those people, perhaps figure out a way if some are very apprehensive about getting online or getting on Zoom, ways of being able to encourage that. As I said, I'm not sure in regards to all the sort of quarantines and whether or not it actually takes you to go to somebody's house to help them. Also, perhaps talk about it through an email in case some of those members actually need technology updates, whether they need a new computer or whether they need to buy a webcam, or work out what kind of costs may be involved for some of these people who've never really had much experience with that before. But the main thing is just to keep going forward with it, just keep pushing the engagement, keep putting stuff out there on social media, keep the emails and keep the conversations going about what's happening in the club. And one thing that my club does is we've got a WhatsApp group, and all our members are on that. And so WhatsApp is a messaging app service. So we utilise that quite often as well. So it's a good way of us staying connected. And we've got our own private Facebook group as well, just for our members. And but the thing is you got to keep the conversation going, you got to keep the communication up, and hopefully from that the engagement will flow.
Thanks, Evan. I'm just mindful of the time here. We've been going for 50 minutes now, so I think it's appropriate to have perhaps a couple more questions, and I'm looking at two good ones, two good observations here from Becky and one from Graham. So go with Graham's first. And Graham's talking about Rotary crowdfunding meals for frontline health personnel. As a way of as a means of supporting and rewarding people for a job well done. What do you think of that?
Oh, I think that idea is great. Again, it would just have to be about how it's actually implemented. Or how it's delivered. So would you take food to the hospitals for those people, or how would that information come across? Like, how would you know that the doctors, nurses, and other frontline medical staff or essential workers get that kind of the delivery of that? I think setting up a GoFundMe or might not necessarily be GoFundMe, but another online funding website is worthwhile. And again, it all depends on how it's promoted. No one's going to know about it unless you talk about it, which is why I say about Rotary all the time. No one's going to know about us unless we start putting it out there. Spend too long hiding ourselves under a bushel. But with that idea, I think that idea has some great merit. I think you just need to work out the logistics of, once you have the money or whatever that you're trying to achieve, how it's actually going to be delivered into because ultimately you're raising funds to get some food or something into the hands of the people that actually need it. So you need to sort of connect those dots on how, A, B, C are actually going to work together. And I think that idea sounds awesome.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you. Becky has raised one of the things that Rotaract is doing globally at the moment, as I understand it, and certainly Adelaide Uni Rotaract have been right into this with their with one of their cooking classes that they have on next week. But what Becky's saying is one of the things Rotaract is doing at the moment is spending time ensuring that we can provide places online for our members to come together, chat almost 24/7. This connection during times of isolation and the like, and we're trying to create a safe environment where we have fun together. And she observes we're doing online parties, quizzes, cooking classes, as in the Adelaide Uni Club, language exchanges, playing games, as well as salsa and Zumba classes. So Rotaract are doing everything, as is not surprising with Rotaract. Evan, that's Rotaract, and I thank Becky for sharing that with us. How could you take that into a broader Rotary context?
Okay, that's a great question. So, and there's two different things that I want to unpack there. So for me personally, I was in Rotaract for 12 years. joined at 18, left at 30. And for me, Rotaract, all my friends were Rotaract. It was a big friendship group. When I joined Rotary, it was a bit of a shock to the system because Rotary is somewhat of an acquaintance group. So we know people, but we're not necessarily friends with each other. While in Rotaract, in your club, everybody's friends. They're hanging out at people's homes and that other kind of thing. Now that we've been thrown into this isolation period and clubs have closed down or we're doing Zooms or different things like that, now more than ever, I think it's time for our members to come together as a friendship group or as a family unit. And as I spoke about a bit earlier, it's offering those sorts of different things than what we normally would do at a club meeting. So, and trust Rotaract and Rotaractors to come up with these fantastic ideas. Rotaract really is the future of Rotary. I don't know. I'm just like, I'd love to see a district governor who's like 22 years old, perhaps like that, because some of the ideas are so fresh. But join what they're doing. Zumba classes or offering different things like that. It's just trying to break the boredom cycle up, and it's trying to sort of give your own members a reason for staying in your club for the fun things that you're doing. I mean, for example, Rotarians love wine. I know I can see a gentleman there, David from the Sunrise Club. He's looked like he's already polished off 2 bottles already. Just one. But have like a wine night. And guys all jump. I mean, I don't know how well that would go if you all jump on a club with 1 glass and by the end of the meeting you've all finished 3 bottles. So it might be an interesting meeting to watch back on reflection. But offer different things that you're doing. The world is your oyster now with the Rotary Club, so you don't have to conduct your meetings like you did your traditional ones. You don't, for some of those clubs that ding the bells and sergeant sessions and toast the Queen, this and this and all of that sort of stuff. This is a whole new way of doing things. And so, for one of your meetings one week, maybe you might not have a huge amount of Rotary stuff to talk about, but it could be a wine night. It could be as I said, whiskey, or it could be, perhaps one of your members, goes through and cooks one of their recipes or something like that. And if they can figure it out, position the camera so that you watch people cook a recipe and people follow on from home or join in with what some of the Rotaractors are doing. And not necessarily just with Rotary. I mean, there are multiple organisations out there now who are people who are doing all sorts of different things that you can jump in on Zoom. So it's, as I said, the world's your oyster now with what we do, and it's just keeping it fun, which I think is the main thing. And that should be the main focus on our very being as Rotarians. Is it fun? Because there's been some meetings where I've gone to which haven't been the fun, and we've got to really think firmly and hard about that, on how we can sort of bring fun back into our organisation at the best of times, let alone now, but especially now, because we're asking people to stay engaged and invite them into our homes and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Now, Carol, no one's asked me about the Superman stuff yet, so I'm really upset about
Well, okay, hang on. Dorothy Dick's question, are we ready? Drum roll, da-da-da-da-da-da. Evan, can you tell us about that Superman thing behind you there, mate?
Oh, look, we don't think we've got time for that now. No. I ask you to show you. So, as you all know, like you can see from the shirt, so big Superman fan. I've been collecting Superman stuff since about 1987, when I first saw Superman 4. I was about six years old, and I've been a sort of Superman fan ever since. So, so this is my task to you. If you guys are ever out and about at an op shop or shopping, or Superman stuff, geez, I wonder if Evan's got that. I mean, if you can see all that, I probably do. It's quite an expensive hobby, but it just shows you that I'm not just interested in Rotary International, even though that plays a huge part of my life, sometimes a little bit too much, to be perfectly honest. But I do have other interests outside of Rotary, and as you can see, this is the reason why I kind of went along with the whole Rotary Superman superhero stuff, which it's kind of I suppose made me recognisable around the Rotary world as sort of the Rotary superhero, much to the annoyance of those in the headquarters and other places as well. But anyway, it's all fun.
Recognisable. Yep. Just a couple more here. I think I need to. And this is more of a perhaps an observation. Becky said, "Reach out." In her follow-up comment. So there's one for everyone. Reach out to this Rotaract online opportunity. You've got a wonderful opportunity to make new friends, connect big time. But one last thing that I do want to mention here, Evan, before we close up. Graham has made an observation that to make it easy for our members to join a Zoom club meeting, we have a link on our website. All they've got to do is click on it and they're in. What would you say about ease of access like that?
Okay, the only thing with that is that sometimes the link can change from week to week. So you remembering if you set up a new Zoom meeting for this week and then you do it again next week, the link might change for the following week. So unless you've got a real canny website guy who can update that all the time, I would think that whoever's the main organiser of the Zoom meetings each week would be the one who would be best to send an actual email out to all the club members, and then the club members can just click that email link and then they'll take them to the new Zoom meeting rather than have something up on their website. But in saying that, if you wanted to promote and perhaps encourage others from outside your club to join your meetings, then put that up on your website or put that up on your Facebook page. I would sort of lean towards more Facebook page than your actual website, but the main thing is making sure that all your club members get an email with the Zoom meeting or GoToMeeting or Skype or whatever particular platform or program that you want to use. But the main thing is making sure that those members have that information, and perhaps think about, linking with some of these tutorial videos that have been produced on certainly the main Zoom website or YouTube as well, and you can put it through there. I just saw another message saying that the links can stay consistent. I didn't realise that. So okay, if that's the case, then you can put it up on the website or whatever.
You need to do it. Set meetings recurring.
Yeah. Okay. Just be sure that everything is set up there properly. And I suppose this one of the last thing I just wanted to say, if those of you who don't follow me on social media, by all means, hit me up on my Facebook page. It's Evan Burrell Rotarian, and anything that I've produced now going forward, or anything that I've done over the last 5 or so years, by all means, you're very welcome to repurpose or reuse, share or copy or take the stuff that I've done if it resonates with you, or it thinks it can help spread the message about you and your club or Rotary in general. You're very welcome to use it. So I'm offering that to you at no charge. And lastly, though, Kero, I've never been to Western Australia before. So if there is any district governors out there who'd like me to speak to a conference, if we ever go back to ever having a physical conference before, I'd happily fly out to Western Australia. I feel like I've seen more of the United States than I've seen of my own country, which is a great shame.
Noted, and hopefully some of our district governors-elect will be watching.
I haven't been to Adelaide either, but or South Australia, but that's to South Australia.
You can drop in on the way. Hey, Evan, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you. The commentary has really spoken for itself in terms of what people have got out of this afternoon. You've been going for an hour and you've been doing an absolutely fabulous job. So, folks, what I'm going to ask you to do now, having unmuted everyone, although the theory is that we've unmuted everyone. Let me just Try that again. If you're not unmuted, could you make sure you are? And now what I'd like you to do, please, is join me in a round of applause for Evan for a fantastic webinar.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Kero, for setting this up and giving me the opportunity to speak to all who would be willing to give up an hour of their time to listen to me. And I thank you all. And just two last things, which I want to say. A lot of people rubbish the Rotary themes. They think it's we shouldn't have a theme and cost this and cost that. Anyway, I think there is nothing like I've never heard of a Rotary International theme, which is more important now than ever. Was Rotary, the current theme this year is Rotary Connects the World, and it leads directly into next year's themes is Rotary Opens Opportunities. So we're connected now, and going forward after this horrible coronavirus and wherever it leads, I'm sure there's going to be more opportunities that open doors for us going forward. So I'll never, ever let anyone rubbish another Rotary International theme again. I will defend it until the day I die, that I think they are incredibly important of ways of inspiring us. And certainly Rotary Connecting the World and Rotary Opportunities is very inspiring to me. So thank you again.
Thank you again, Evan. Yes, well done. And a quick plug. We do have more membership voice webinars coming on a range of topics, including one that we're arranging at the moment with our Rotary International Director-elect that we do want to get a big audience to, because there's going to be some very, very important messages there. But more about that one later on. And on that note, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Enjoy whatever time it is, wherever you are. Good night.
Good morning.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good day, Vince. Thanks, guys.
Stay safe.
Go the Cowboys.